too legitimate to ignore. Ancient astronaut theorist Giorgio Tsoukalos, author David Childress, and former British Ministry of Defense officer, which can... With a video call. Hi, Linda. Good to see you.
Hi, guys. It's great to see you.
So tell us, please, what got you started in this field?
I am a professional TV producer and an investigative reporter. In September of 1979, I was director of special projects at the CBS station in Denver, Colorado. And late in that summer, there were headlines in the Denver Post and the Rocky Mountain News about bloodless, trackless animal mutilations in Colorado and surrounding states. I wanted to find out, what did this mean, a bloodless, trackless animal mutilation? This gets me involved, and we do this for my film, A Strange Harvest. There was a classic pattern from case to case to case, where these animals have the same tissue taken, ear, eye, tongue, jaw, genitals, and rectum, and those were excisions that really baffled the sheriffs and the veterinarians, because the bone where the cut was made glistened like somebody had melted and then polished.
Right. This would imply some type of external technology.
I'm wondering, in your research with the hundreds of people you've spoken to, not just the ranchers, but fellow journalists, broadcasters, the veterinarians, what is your bottom line conclusions? Who's doing this and why?
Well, Nick, there is no evidence beyond the bodies of these animals, but one of the ranchers told me that one night he saw a round glowing disc, is all he could see, put a beam right down into one of his pastures where they had been having mutilations around in a large area. And in that beam of light, he saw one of his animals. The sheriff told me this himself. He said, I know that the perpetrators of these bloodless animal mutilations are creatures from outer space. And I felt like I had been hit with an electrical shock.
Creatures from outer space? Could extraterrestrials be responsible for the bizarre animal mutilations that have been reported by ranchers all over the country? And if so, to what end?
I have literally interviewed thousands now. You hear, I saw this kind of light. I saw this beam luring an animal to the pasture and it was mutilated. Somebody else saw this animal coming up in a beam of light and later it was found mutilated. And what people were describing in the 20th century are what people were describing in the 3rd century or 500 BC or going back in time. And it's not just the United States. It's Canada, Mexico, Central America, South America, Australia, New Zealand, all of Western Europe, and going into Eastern Europe.
According to the FBI, thousands of cattle mutilations have been reported across the U.S. since the 1970s. Linda's pioneering investigations forced those who study the UFO phenomenon to consider a chilling proposition: that extraterrestrial beings aren't just here to observe us. They may have an agenda for our planet.
I think it's important to get across that there are real people who have been afraid to come forward and describe what they actually saw with their own eyes because they didn't have video proof and they don't want to be criticized.
Well, Linda, this has been absolutely invaluable, and we are all so lucky to have you on board with us. So we thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Georgie.
Wow,
It was incredible.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. She was like the first dogged reporter, investigative reporter, you know, phoning out people, going to those sites, interviewing people.
Yeah, it brings it home that these UFOs have real, tangible, physical effects, and that means it's not just imagination, it's real.
By the way, the U.S. government is one of the last governments
to admit there's a UFO phenomenon. But now we all actually know that the U.S. government has been investigating this since the 40s.
Absolutely, and records, files, documents are being declassified and released in record numbers. In the United Kingdom, for example, we've declassified and released about 60,000 pages of UFO documents, some of which were very highly classified. And so we get this fuller picture of what's going on.
And now, you know, almost everybody who has had an experience feels compelled to come forward to tell their story. I mean, this reminds me of one influential person and modern pioneer, Bob Lazar.
Yes, he was somebody who first spoke out in 1989.
Bob Lazar is someone who became famous back in 1989 as a result of a very specific claim that he made. And that claim is that he worked at a place just south of Area 51. He called it S4. He was interviewed by Las Vegas journalist George Knapp in a series of very detailed interviews.
We put him on the air, blacked out his face, and he told this incredible story. Exactly what's going on up there?
Well, there's several, actually 9 flying saucers, flying discs, that are out there of extraterrestrial origin.
He said it's a secret that needed to be told to the world, that his life was in danger, and that he was coming forward and wanted to tell it. I could feel my jaw dropping. Is this real? We left there thinking, wow, if this is real, this is a really big story. So we decided, well, let's take the time and get this right.
Over the next 8 months, Knapp conducted a thorough investigation of Lazar's sensational claims. According to Lazar, before he worked at S4, he was a physicist at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, the facility that developed the atomic bomb.
The central question for me was, did he work at Los Alamos? Because if he did, it would at least be plausible that if he worked there in a technical or scientific position, that he could also be hired at a place like S4. So that's where we focused our attention. I started calling Los Alamos at first. Nope, we have no record of a guy named Bob Lazar. I got the phone book from the Los Alamos lab. There's his name in the phone book. I called him back and said, hey, he's in the phone book. They finally, sort of exasperatingly, told me, yeah, we've got a record of him being here. We found Bob Lazar to be credible about his background, his scientific training, where he had worked.
For more than 2 decades, Bob Lazar's critics claimed there was no evidence of any secret military base in the Nevada desert. But then, in 2013, a Freedom of Information Act request forced the CIA to finally acknowledge that Area 51 is real.
The story of Area 51, it exploded around the world. The reason you know about Area 51 is because Bob Lazar and George Knapp on the news 1989 made it a household name. That's the reason. All of that came from Bob Lazar.
To many researchers, the government's acknowledgement of Area 51 established Lazar as more than a UFO pioneer. His inside access made him a whistleblower.
My name's Bob Lazar. I'm known for working at a classified base known as S4 out in the Nevada desert near Area 51. And there, we reverse engineered alien spacecraft.
But could Lazar's sensational claims be true? Former Air Force pilot Captain David Fruhoff worked at Area 51 from 1979 until 1985. And while he was never shown any alien technology, he attests that Bob Lazar's account of the facility is entirely accurate.
When I was there, we knew about S4, but we didn't know what they did. And I know people that had worked for me that after I left there, they had seen Bob Lazar there. And they admitted that to me recently. Bob Lazar's statements and all the things he had said have gelled now to the point where I think he's very credible.
doesn't necessarily prove every aspect of Bob Lazar's story, but Bob Lazar said there was an Area 51, and the government then said, yeah, okay, there is. So it makes one wonder.
Right.
I mean, look, if Roswell was real, and they had to take the wreckage somewhere, and of course it stands to reason. We'd want to know, can we build these things ourselves? Can we develop this technology? You do it somewhere. What better place than Area 51?
And Area 51 today is part of our pop culture. I mean, everyone knows about Area 51. Right. I think that anyone who genuinely looks into the UFO phenomenon, you have to come away with some belief in it.
There's no getting away from the fact that we are in a stronger position now in terms of evidence than we've ever been. And actually, when this is accepted, we are going to have to fundamentally rethink our place in the wider cosmos.
Right, yes. Well, gentlemen, this has been a fascinating conversation. So with everything that we have so far, cattle mutilations, UFO sightings, and also ancient stories that pretty much speak of the same thing, you have to wonder, where does this all lead, and will we soon come closer to the truth? There's an amazing consistency to all of these reports, and when you put them all in totality, it's just not something you can dismiss. Something's going on.
It is, and we're building up to something.
My gosh.
We have military pilots and radar operators going on the record with this. Government officials who've been involved in these sorts of programs. We have declassification of documents.
It seems to be the beginning of disclosure, in a sense.
Could disclosure, in fact, already be happening? With evidence coming from many sources. In December 2020, former CIA Director John Brennan made a surprising statement about UFOs on the Conversations with Tyler podcast.
I think some of the phenomena we're going to be seeing continues to be unexplained and might in fact be a different form of life.
We are living through a remarkable turning point right now in UFO studies. We don't know what these objects are, but the fact that these objects are documented, backed by evidence, backed by a long record of credible testimony is no longer in dispute.
It's been over 70 years since these early pioneers began collecting data and releasing it to the public, and we've really come a long way since then.
We should never forget that all these people, whether it's Jacques Vallée, Dr. J. Allen Hynek, Carl Lawrenson, Linda Moulton Howe, without them, we probably wouldn't be in the fortunate position that we are in today.
All of these people went down a path that was at the time unheard of. And in a way, we are standing on the shoulders of giants. Because through the work of the pioneers and through shows like Ancient Aliens, and now almost everybody who has had an experience feels compelled to tell their story because it has become more accepted and the so-called zeitgeist has changed in our favor.
Well, I think you're right.
It's been a great conversation with you guys. It's just a fascinating subject, of course. Yeah, thank you very much for your information, Nick. And everything that we've talked about today illustrates this disclosure that has been going on for a very long time. And I can't wait to see what the future holds. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Ancient traditions around the world, powerful sacred sounds were used to communicate with the heavens.
The whole universe resonates with the sound.
But was sound also used to create megalithic structures?
They had a certain sound, a certain vibration, and the blocks moved by themselves.
And could seemingly primitive rituals actually have been connected to otherworldly technology?
Within the harmonic
sound, you can impart all kinds of information.
Ancient astronaut theorist Georgios Tsoukalos and author David Childress have gathered experts in science, religion, and mythology to explore the mysterious power of sound.
Monuments worldwide have acoustic properties, and it's all harmonics.
And the possibility that new discoveries in acoustics could lead to the next giant leap in human evolution.
This is literally getting the right vibrations to create the next experience of reality.
There is a doorway in the universe. Beyond it is the promise of truth. It demands we question everything we have ever been taught. The evidence is all around us. The future is right before our eyes. We are not alone. We have never been alone.
I'm really delighted to be here with you guys because I think that acoustics is definitely something that needs to be explored even further. As humans, music and acoustics are very important to our lives.
Remember, from the Bible, it says, God created the world how?
In the beginning was the word.
By speaking. He spoke. It's spoken. Right? The oral tradition is not just words or intellect. It's an entire tonal thing. When the universe was created, it says that the whole earth has a grid of tones that bounds everything.
That is the same thing in ancient India with Om. They're saying exactly the same thing, that the universe started with one note, a single note,
that's right,
a vibration, and then it's the Om sound.
Om is a sacred sound in the Eastern religions of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism.
Hindu concept of cosmic sound is simply Om. Om is made of three letters, A, U, and M. Those three letters combined makes the sound Om. And the whole universe resonates with the sound Om.
Om was not just found in Hinduism and Vedic tradition. It's very much used in Buddhism. It's utilized in Jainism and also in Sikhism as well. And it is the most common and most sacred of all mantras in all of these traditions.
The concept of Om first appears in the Vedas, the religious texts that form the foundation of Hinduism. According to the texts, specific vibrations created through ritualistic chanting, singing, and prayer can provide a direct connection between humans and the gods themselves.
The importance of sound in Hinduism and Buddhism is very, very vital. Without sound, you cannot pronounce a mantra. Mantra is combined words made into invocation.
As described in the Vedic texts, the gods provided humankind with a visual aid to remember these sacred sounds, elaborate patterns called mandalas.
Mandalas are mnemonic devices used to aid meditation, often in tandem with chanting. What's interesting is that in Hindu temples, we have a visual representation of mandalas. So what they're doing is they're essentially translating sound into visual patterns. In modern technology, these are called Chladni patterns.
In 1787, German physicist Ernst Chladni, known as the father of acoustics, published his seminal work, Discoveries in the Theory of Sound. In it, Chladni describes an experiment that shows how vibrations can create exotic geometric shapes.
We've got this thing called the Chladni plate, after the scientist who invented it. It's a thin metal plate like a sounding board, and we've got a transducer attached to the bottom of it. And they spread sand over the top of this plate, and we start playing certain tones. And those sand particles start to bounce around and dance around, and they start to form these mathematical circular patterns. And as we move up through these frequencies, the sand goes into kind of a chaos in between state, and then it arrives at this next pattern. And the higher the frequency you go, the more these patterns become more complex.
In the 1960s, Swiss scientist Hans Jenny was experimenting with Chladni patterns when he noticed an extraordinary connection.
Jenny tried it with Ohm, and it generated an image of a circle with a dot in the middle. That itself is actually very interesting, because the most fundamental elements of any mandala will usually be a circle with a dot marking the cosmic center.
Today, the patterns made by frequencies are known as cymatics.
In modern technology, we are able to create visual representations of sounds. What is remarkable is that we see the same patterns in Hindu temples, in ancient Indian structures.
At the Sri Ranganatha Swami Temple in southern India are 40 ornate statues carved from monolithic columns. The statues depict leaping animals, and above them, vimanas, vehicles that, according to ancient Hindu texts, were flown by the gods.
The word vimana in ancient Vedic texts means flying machines. In Hinduism, it is clearly established that the gods come down from the sky using vimanas. In the temple of Sri Ranga, these carvings show many different types of vimanas. And what's really unique is that under these vimanas, we are able to see some very interesting patterns of mandala.
Some researchers believe these mandalas represent more than just an artistic flourish.
According to legend, each type of vimana can be activated with a specific type of mandala. If we crack this visual code, if we crack this cymatic pattern, we might actually unlock the secret to power these vimanas.
Think about all this is somehow connected to cymatics and some of these shapes that we see in the ancient hieroglyphics and some of these structures, megalithic structures, and you can reproduce those with sound waves. And so I wonder if when these patterns occur, when we create these sounds, is this kind of like we're inserting the pen to open up an encrypted PDF file to read the information?
And what they're trying to tell us with a mandala is that this is the cymatic code, the shape, the vibration, the sound that's going to levitate or do whatever. You make this picture with sound and you've done it.
There's knowledge of the ancients, which was concealed because mankind was not considered ready for it. And this was that technology.
What's interesting about this whole harmonics and cymatics is that this is a universal thing. It's going to be throughout the universe. It's every single
That's
planet.
called the anthropic principle.
Like mathematics.
We have discovered all these extreme amplitudes of acoustic sounds, and right now we're currently working on how we might be using it for future technologies. He'll love it.
This is
So let me tell you a story about an event that happened very recently. Two scientists have done an experiment. They go into the great detail